want to look at is somewhere between 5,000, give or take, 5,000 BC. It's called the African humid phase. The African humid phase. Here's the piece in geology that we should study. In the very beginning, even before the humans that we know of, Homo sapiens, Homo sapiens, Homo erectus, all that, before they existed in this form, all of the rivers were connected. See, the way the rivers were connected, well, when you go to geology, there was a war. John G. Jackson talks about it, where there's a war between the land and the sea. There's eruptions in the ocean. There's no land that's above water. Everything, the earth starts as a gaseous ball, then through the relationship of the heat, because you know the sun is thrown off the planets, the earth is a gaseous ball. In interstellar space, the balance of the coolness of interstellar space with the heat, it balances, and inside the gaseous ball there comes a core, hot metals and things like that. Over time, we're talking about millions and millions and millions. See, we're living in the immediate, so
That's right.
our minds don't perceive millions of years because we live in like 60, 70, 80, 90. If we're good, 120 years old, right? So looking at this formation of this ball, in the core, eruptions are going to happen. You're going to have earthquakes, okay?
Plate tectonics.
Well, see, the thing is that the core is going to be what the plate tectonics is because there's no land.
Right. Okay.
So what's going to happen is that there's going to be volcanoes, earthquakes, patah, the rising of the hill up out of the water.
Right.
Okay? And this is going to happen 5-6 times over millions of years. Okay? Eventually, the heat of the sun is going to settle the water down, and there's going to be one big hill that's going to come up, that's going to rise up above the waters, and it's going to remain up. The very tip of that hill is the continent of Africa. Africa is the only continent that cannot have an earthquake. Because Africa is the only continent that cannot have an earthquake. Because Africa sits on one plate. You can only have an earthquake when the landmass sits on plates. And there's a shift in the plate. And that shift creates an earthquake. But when Africa, at the top of the hill, sits on top, it's sitting on one plate, whereas there's cracks in all the other areas, okay? But for Africa, being in the top of the hill, that is why life is going to come to Africa, because though the sun has been shining on the African continent the longest period of time in Earth's history.